Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Julie Howe. I'm a public speaking trainer with Julie Howe Communications, Inspiring Action. Welcome to this session. We're going to talk for the next 20 minutes about how to create a stink. Campaigning tips for people who have absolutely no idea where to start. By way of introduction, if you haven't come across me before, I've been a campaigner for about 20 years. I campaign on all sorts of subjects, but probably most famously or notoriously, depending on how you look at things, I campaign around making the world better for disabled people, particularly the online world. I've done an awful lot of campaigning around that, but I also do campaigning on a much kind of smaller, local, personal scale. While I do work on huge campaigns with big budgets and I'm working with the government and I work with large corporations, I also work with people who just want to make a difference in their local community or a difference that's very personal to them. The kind of issues where you think, well, maybe my MP can help with this, or I'm feeling really frustrated because I feel there's something in my local community or something that affects me personally that I want to change, but I don't know where to start. So I work with some people on a one-to-one basis, helping them to make a difference. As you will gather, it's very much my belief that you can make a difference in the world, that anybody can make a difference in the world. You don't have to have money, you don't need connections. It makes a difference if you do, but even if you have nothing, all the campaigns that I've done that have been really successful have really started with very little at all. So I thought it might be nice to share some tips with you. I actually gave this presentation a few days ago at a business networking event where it went down really well. So I thought, well, why not share it with a few more people and do it online for you? So that's what I'm going to do over the next 17 minutes. So, to get into the campaigner's mindset then, campaigners are an interesting bunch of people. You have to be really, don't you, to think that you can make a difference in the world. The two main reasons why people set about a campaign, set about trying to make a difference. The first is because they want to make a situation better. This might be for very selfish reasons, because something's happening in the world that's affecting them or affecting their business or affecting the organisation that they work in. And that's absolutely fine. It might be that you want to make a difference to some legislation or some codes of practice that govern the way that your industry works, because you can make more money that way. Your business will prosper that way. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. You can see that as selfish if you like, but it's non-selfish if you're enabling a situation where you're generating more money for your business and able to employ more people. That can only be a good thing. The second is to make a name for yourself. Now, if you want to make a name for yourself in the world, there's probably easier ways to go about it than starting a campaign. Very few of us end up with statues erected in or on outside football clubs. The life of the campaign is one really of anonymity. Nobody you are trying to influence will ever give you the credit for their ultimate decision to do the things that you want them to do. You don't get thanked, and there's also no kind of finish. If you're a campaigner who really does want to make a lot of changes in the world, then as soon as you've made one, you move on to the next, and then on to the next. You really don't stop to pause for breath or take stock. It's not an easy way to get glamour. You may get PR off the back of it, so you may have your name in the paper from time to time and maybe even get some radio or TV opportunities, but I think a great way of looking at this is thinking about the recent world events, particularly in the UK in the past month when Lady Thatcher passed away. It was fascinating to hear young people ask us older people who were alive during Thatcher's time as Prime Minister, why are people so exercised by her? What did she do? And I thought, my goodness, how quickly the influence of somebody is forgotten, how quickly history forgets us. And of course, this is always the risk with history, that we are bound to make the same mistakes that we made in the past. And this is something I'm going to go on to talk to you about in just a moment. So if you want to make the situation better, great. If you want to make a name for yourself, campaigning is probably not the best way to go about it. Now, a lot of you who are listening because there's a personal issue that you want to tackle, and others are working in businesses and there may be reasons that you want to champion a particular subject. I don't listen to the Archers, but my other half does, and it's often on in the car, therefore, so I'm subjected to it. And I know that there are issues. There's certainly been a plot line in the Archers about milk and the way that milk is produced, and there's been some campaigning in the storyline around that, and that's a beautiful way of illustrating that as a campaigner you work within an ecosystem, and your business exists within an ecosystem. You may be familiar with the television programme Dragon's Den that's broadcast on BBC Two, and very often when the wannabe entrepreneurs appear in the den, they've produced a product or a service that they believe plugs a gap in the market because it solves a problem. And many, many businesses, if not maybe all businesses, but a very large percentage of businesses exist to fix a problem. Now, if that problem that their product or service exists to fix is fixed by you through campaigning, their business may go under. As a result, they may not like you very much. You have to be very mindful when you want to make a change in the world. There is always a knock-on effect of what you do. Fantastic if you consider how can what I want to do create new business opportunities, help make more money for people, help make the world a more secure place where more people can prosper and thrive. Wonderful. But you also need to look at the other side of this. If I fix this problem, am I actually destroying somebody else's business? Is that person going to be very angry with me? Am I actually causing more problems in the world and in the environment by fixing this? There's an awful lot of research that needs to take place before you start campaigning on any issue, or do not be surprised at the almost immediate backlash that you will get. Our world, our business world, is a very delicate ecosystem with a lot of interdependencies, and you meddle with that at your peril. So that's something to think about. Ego. Now, I'm a public speaker, and many of you listening I know have encountered me public speaking, and it's an interesting thing with the campaigner, with the mindset of the campaigner, because you need to have both at the same time a huge ego and also no ego whatsoever. You need to have a huge ego because a big part of campaigning is getting your message out there, and that means talking to people. So you need to be a confident public speaker, you need to be confident dealing with the public, and you need to be confident dealing with the media. Also, if you're doing anything that's controversial, that's going to make enemies for you, then you need to be able to withstand whatever they throw at you. Very famously, and I suffered a lot of brickbats have been thrown at me over the years, including at one point with one big campaign I was doing, a big IT company, a very big international IT company, took exception to what I was asking them to do and took out a full-page advert in the national press complaining about me with the headline, "Julie Howell is wrong." Now, it did me no harm. We got where we wanted to get to with that company eventually, but my goodness, thank goodness I've got a huge ego that can withstand that kind of very public criticism. If you're doing something people don't like and they come to you and let you know that and you refuse to do anything about it, stand your ground, good for you. But don't be surprised if they then deploy other tactics to try and get you to stop doing whatever it is you're doing. You need to be a strong person. You can't go to bed at night upset, taking it all on board, because you will crumble and fail. To be a campaigner, you need to have a huge ego. At the same time, you need to listen. You must constantly be listening to people about the impact that your campaigning is having on what their concerns may be, and also when they want to kind of help you and take your messages out. You need to be listening all the time and not take everything personally. It's about the greater cause. It's not about you. Now, that's a very comforting thought, actually. If you're working on a campaign that is controversial and you're coming in for quite a lot of criticism, it can be quite useful to think, well, say to yourself, I'm doing this for the greater good. I'm doing this for the right reasons. I'm doing this to support people to make the world better. And that enables you to be humble while at the same time having a big ego to go out there and tell the world what needs to be done when that's required. More bad messages to try and put you off. Stop kidding yourself. change. We talk about change a lot in business. Change is a really, really hard thing to do. But if you're a campaigner, more likely than not, you are campaigning for change. The world has to change for you, and you will also need to change. If we keep doing what we did, we get what we got, and don't be surprised about that. I'm a dreadful heartbreaker when people come to me for help, and I'll ask them, well, what have you been doing so far? Tell me what you've been doing. And they very bravely and with no small degree of pride tell me what they've been trying, to which I replied, so none of that works then, which is horrifying, very insulting for them. Uh, But it hasn't been working, otherwise you would have the change that you've been trying to achieve. It's very, very difficult to change. We plod along, and often we're told as entrepreneurs and business owners that, oh, the success that we want is just a day away and just keep going, just keep going. That's true to an extent. You do have to be incredibly tenacious and have a really big ego to run a business and believe that it will succeed, because so many businesses fail. But that doesn't mean keep going to the point of bankruptcy, losing your home, losing everything. There comes a point where you have to be realistic, and I'm a huge fan of realism, and realise when you need to change for the better. Expect to make enemies. You will, even on subjects that seem really straightforward. As I said at the beginning, I'm a disability rights campaigner, and I make loads of enemies through that. You may think, why would anybody not wish to make the world better for people with disabilities? But the truth is, it's back to that ecosystem again. There are many people for whom it suits to have disabled people at the bottom of the pile, because if disabled people aren't at the bottom of the pile, where does that leave them? And you can get an extraordinary emotional reaction from people who see you making a change, because people are very threatened by it. And people are curious, the public are wonderful and can react in absolutely extraordinary ways. Be prepared for that. Just because you know in your bones that what you're trying to achieve is for the greater good, do not expect absolutely everybody to sign up to that. So people can be jealous. People see that you're making a name for yourself or for your campaign or for your business, and you're getting PR off the back of that. They may not like it, may be jealous of you, and may find different ways of expressing that. And the last point on here, well, no one cares about your precious ideas. This is incredibly humbling. You may feel that what you're trying to change is the most important thing in the world, is for the common good, can only make everybody happy. And what you find is when you start trying to make a difference, start talking about your campaign, is it's actually really hard to get anybody to sign up and support you, because no one really is that bothered. When it comes down to it, most people are bothered about what they're going to have for tea tonight. Not particularly fazed by what happens in the news, thinks that all the bad things they hear about won't happen to them. And it takes a great deal to get people to actually care about what you care about. But I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Do not despair. This is all the bad stuff first, just to try and put you off. So, how do you go about starting a campaign, making a difference in the world? It's actually really simple. You may want me to say it's terribly complicated and you need to hire a professional campaigner to do it, and it's going to cost you lots of money. Let me assure you, it's really, really simple. Sometimes we overcomplicate things because we don't actually want them to work. You may have heard the expression about people who are no more terrified than when you give them what they want. So many of us are like that. We have big dreams. And when somebody actually shows us how we can achieve those dreams, the thought of not having the dream anymore, the possibility of actually achieving what we want to achieve, can be absolutely terrifying. Campaigning is simple, and it's as simple as these 3 points. I will go into more detail in a moment, but it really is this simple. 1, define the problem. What is the problem? What's its nature? In what environment does it exist? Look into the history of it. What have people tried to do before to fix it? Understand as much as you can about how the difficulty affects people beyond yourself. It could be an issue that's to do with dogs messing the pavement in your area, the street lighting being turned off too early at night in your area, right through to something in your industry where there's an issue with tax, or there's an issue with the law around privacy that's making it difficult for you to operate your business in the way that you would like. Do your research. Do not rush in because you would just look foolish if other people say to you, actually, was already dealt with a couple of years ago, and this was how it transpired. This was how the problem was or wasn't fixed, and why. Secondly, this is terribly important, identify the solution. Don't just go around with a problem and expect everybody else to come up with it and with the results. And I see this time and time and time again. If you're a campaigner, you are highlighting a problem and suggesting a solution and asking people to support you in creating that solution and letting others know about it. It's absolutely vital. If you're ever going to go to a member of parliament with a difficulty, it is absolutely hopeless to go to them just with the problem. You need to identify the solution as well for them so that they can actually take action. And this leads me on to my final point. Take it to the people who can do something about it. The best campaigns are those that go completely under the radar and nobody knows about them, because those who have identified a problem, identified a solution, have then gone straight to the source of the power. There's a phrase for this: follow the power, follow the money. Go to the people who can make the difference. Creating lots of noise about something, but with no commitment to a solution or to going to the people who can achieve that solution for you is the wrong kind of ego, and it's a big waste of everybody's time. Talking about that, 3 things I hate and I absolutely forbid. This phrase slacktivism. Have you ever been on Facebook and signed an online petition or clicked a like to say that you support a cause? Absolutely pointless. No change was made in the world because of this. Petitions, forget them. Facebook pages, ticking anything online to say you support a cause, forget it. This is slacktivism, which is the opposite of activism. It is slack activism, if you like. It is entirely pointless. It is not the way to make a difference. These things are an absolute, last resort if you need to get lots of attention for something. So how should you go about it then? Well, here's some steps for you. Here's 6 very simple steps. First one is to define the issue in plain language. I say this again and again to rookie and would-be campaigners. If you make it too complicated to understand, nobody will be able to follow your campaign and sign up to it and support it, because crucial to the success of a campaign is enabling those campaigners who are following you to articulate, to express the campaign to other people. That's how word of mouth works. So if people aren't clear what your campaign is about and how they can make a difference, it will fall on its face right away. Second thing I just covered, which is research the history. What happened before? What did and didn't work before? And maybe you can get in touch with the people that were involved and ask them, why didn't this work? Was it because you ran out of funds, or was there some blocking issue? Also bear in mind that circumstances change. I mentioned Margaret Thatcher earlier on. Imagine Twitter in Thatcher's era. Everything would be completely different, wouldn't it? So just because something hasn't worked in the past doesn't mean that the conditions aren't now perfect for it to be a real success now. Number 3 is create calls to action for different kinds of supporters. Now, as a campaigner, you'll get wonderful people who follow you and are really keen to take your messages out and do so beautifully and attract lots of support for your cause. But there will also be lots of people who will follow you who frankly are a pain in the bum. And you need to know what to do about those people. The worst thing is to ignore them. If you ignore them or try and tell them to go away, they will only become worse, I assure you. Best thing to do is give them something to do that causes least harm and most help to your campaign. So get them giving out the leaflets, or get them doing the Twitter, or get them doing whatever it is that helps you but is least harm to you. Really important. Get people who follow you to help you in all sorts of different ways. Number 4 is locate the power. So work out who it is that can make a real difference here and approach them. When I was working to make the web more accessible, yes, I spoke to the government, but I also spoke to Tesco, because so many people use Tesco to do their online shopping. So that was the obvious place to go. That was where the power was. That's where we could really make a change. I ended up making a more accessible website, grocery website with Tesco, that resulted in thousands of blind people getting online for the first time. That would never have happened if I'd only worked on government websites, because as worthy as government websites are, they are not interesting. Think about doing things that really make a difference in people's lives, and then go to the source of the power. And number 5 is know when to strike. Sometimes the time is right, sometimes the time is not right. Look at what's going on in the media. See if there's any synergies. The press are often keen to write about a subject, but with a different and new and fresh angle than they have before. So be savvy when you look at the press, like looking at the BBC News website, for example, and think, is there an angle here for me to tell my story and share my messages and talk about my campaign off the back of what is happening? If we look at the recent horse meat scandal that we've had in the UK recently, what a wonderful opportunity for local butchers to talk about why it's important to source locally. Amazing, great opportunity, and it's been wonderful to see that happening in the local press. And number 6, and this is the bit everybody wants to do, is devise a plan. Yes, if you must have a Facebook page and a Twitter stream and all of these other things that you want to do, be realistic about the difference those things will make. If you really want to make a difference, you need to go to the seat of power and make the difference. And you can do that without making a huge noise in public about it. That's why I leave this stuff till last, because a lot of it's ego, you know. Of course you like to see lots of clicks and likes and things up against the campaign you've created, but does doing so really make a difference? More often than not, no, it doesn't. If you would like to become a public speaker, an effective, passionate, impressive, memorable public speaker, I am running a public speaking workshop very soon in Hertfordshire, in Watford, if you're able to get to this area. It's on Friday the 14th of June. It's from 10 till 4. It's £175 all in. I don't charge VAT, £175. But as you've been on this webinar, if you're interested in coming along, special price, £145. Please don't tell other people that, because I'll go bust with that sort of money. £145. Just quote the discount, webinar discount to me when you book. If you'd like to book a place on that, just email me. I'm at julie@juliehowpr.com, or call me on 01923 260 759. I only seem to get calls these days from people who want to sell me PPI protection and whatever, so do give me a call and that'd be wonderful. On that course, we're going to cover all sorts of things. You can be a complete beginner, that's absolutely fine, no experience needed. We're going to cover how to present with charisma and presence, how to present with confidence, how to use your voice to greatest effect, how to tell your story, how to use body language to communicate any message, how to overcome fear, anxiety and nerves, and I'll have lots of tips and techniques for that. It's interactive, it's fun, it's friendly and it's memorable. So if you're able to come along, 14th of June in Watford. If you can't make it to that one, I run other workshops all over the place, so just drop me a line and I'll be happy to talk to you about setting one up near to you. Many thanks for listening. We're up to time now. This will be available as a recording as well, and I shall be putting that online shortly for you to listen to again. I hope this has been useful, and I hope to see you again at a further event or webinar. Bye-bye.